So my name is Sofia Rolati, and I am the supervisor of the Protocol Support Laboratory at the Miami Cancer Institute. So here we are at the Miami Cancer Institute, MCI, which is part of Baptist Health South Florida. And this is where our cancer patients would be treated. Some of those patients would eventually have access to clinical trials and research studies. And so if they sign consent and if they're eligible to participate to those trials, that's where actually the Protocol Support Lab would be involved. So the Protocol Support Lab is pretty much the research lab at Baptist. And so what we do is that we support all the research protocols conducted at MCI. Those could be clinical trials or oncology clinical trials, but we do support the biospecimen repository facility as well. I oversee 2 laboratories, one in Kendall in South Miami and the other one in Broward. And I do have some technicians, research assistants, clinical research lab specialists in my team. And we are in charge of the development of those trials and the collection, processing, and shipping of the biospecimens. We're actively receiving samples for around 50 clinical trials, 50 studies in the lab. But in our pipeline, the startup team is really working with around 150 protocols. So Naima is she's transferring some liquid nitrogen from one container to the other. She will most likely use this liquid nitrogen to process some tissue specimens. And then those samples will be stabilized in the laboratory and then stored in one of those negative 80 freezers. And that's where we would keep the samples for a certain time before they get actually shipped to another facility where they would be analyzed. I was born in France. I went to college in Lyon and I got my master's degree in cellular and molecular biology in Lyon and research and development in biotechnology. And so I worked for 2 years, more or less, in Lyon before actually moving here. So I worked at bioMérieux and I worked at the Commissariat à l'Énergie at Toulouse. I've always wanted to study in an English-speaking country. And so as I was in France, I was more thinking about the UK. But then it didn't happen. But I had the opportunity to actually move to the States. And why Miami? Simply because my family is actually in the Caribbean. My parents are in Martinique. And so I was looking, for a location that would be close to my family. On the personal level, of course, for me to move from my home country, which is France, to here has been challenging. I had to, manage a lot of things. And so now that I have actually 2 children, I don't necessarily have the family support that some people actually may have here. But I'm extremely lucky to have actually a great supporting system here. One other significant challenge is really breaking through the stereotypes and the bias that we can, find within the research community. There's unconscious biases that can still actually affect opportunities for women in science, particularly, women of color. And so this could be actually very difficult. I'm extremely grateful for all the women who actually paved the way in this field, for all the women who actually helped me in my career, and for opportunities like this one to highlight what women can actually do in science. I think it's extremely important. Navigating through those biases with confidence and knowing that my approach and my contribution is valuable is actually essential. There's still work to do though, because there's more women, in leadership positions, but it's a pretty much male-dominated area. Women only hold 14% of the executive positions in STEM companies, and only 8% of CEOs in those companies are actually women. I feel like, as a woman, you need to work harder for your voice to be heard. Generally speaking, you have to be excellent in what you do. You have to give, 150%. I know it's not easy, trust me, I do know, but you have to really work hard, you have to be focused, try to connect with, other people who may be able to help you. I always say that, even to my team, it doesn't hurt to ask. Worst case scenario, people would not respond or say no, but it doesn't hurt to ask. For the future, I would like to, have even more trials, being able to support more patients, with more research protocols, here. And then on the personal level, I would like to really support and help the future generation, make sure that there's access to STEM for any type of population, and promote actually STEM programs, in schools and things like that. I do have 2 young children, and I do see how important it is, like how representation matters. And so I feel like it's important to talk to those things, to the kids, to explain what is it to be a scientist, what does that mean. So yeah, those are my projects for the future.